Tonight, imagine you are sitting beside a campfire. The flames are getting smaller. The last piece of wood has collapsed into glowing red coals. You reach into your pocket, find a lighter, and click. Problem solved. Now remove the lighter, remove the matches, the flashlight, the phone, the car, and the dry wood waiting in a plastic bag. The nearest building does not exist. Neither does anyone you can call. The fire in front of you is not one fire among thousands. It may be the only flame your group can reach tonight. And it is dying. For us, fire is a product. We summon it from a button, a wire, or a tiny wheel of metal. For much of prehistory, fire was not a product. It was a condition. It existed only while heat, fuel, and attention remained together. When that chain broke, the invention disappeared. That is what makes ancient fire so difficult to understand. Finding evidence that people used fire does not automatically prove that they could create it whenever they wanted. A group could collect flame from a natural wildfire. They could feed it for days. They could carry a living ember to another camp. Or they could know how to produce a new spark. Those are 4 different abilities, and archaeology does not reveal all 4 equally well. At Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa, researchers found burned plant remains and bone deep inside the cave, dating to around 1 million years ago. The burning happened too far inside for an ordinary grass fire to explain it easily. That tells us fire had entered human space very early. But it does not place a fire-making tool in anyone's hand. The difference matters. A flame borrowed from the landscape is useful. A flame you can create on demand changes everything. In 2025, researchers reported evidence from Barnham in eastern England that pushed known firemaking much deeper into the past. They found repeated burning in one place, heat-damaged flint tools, and pieces of pyrite that did not naturally belong there. Strike pyrite against flint, and it can throw sparks into dry tinder. The site is about 400,000 years old. It is currently the oldest archaeological case interpreted as deliberate firemaking. Much later, Neanderthal tools from France preserve wear that also matches striking pyrite to make sparks. So ancient humans were not simply waiting helplessly for lightning. Some populations clearly learned to make fire, but that knowledge appeared unevenly, and the evidence is scattered across enormous distances and spans of time. Even when people knew the technique, making fire was not the same as flicking a lighter. You needed the correct stone or friction tool. You needed tinder dry enough to catch a weak spark. You needed fuel that would burn instead of smoke. You needed protection from wind and rain, and you needed practice. That made an existing hearth valuable. As long as a coal remained alive, the group could avoid beginning again from nothing. So what happened when the fire finally went out? First, the circle of light collapsed. Fire was never a perfect wall against predators, but it could discourage some animals, reveal movement near camp, and keep people gathered in one visible place. Without it, one layer of warning and protection vanished. Then warmth disappeared. In a mild landscape, that might be uncomfortable. In cold rain, high wind, or a freezing season, it could become dangerous. Cooking stopped as well. Not every meal required fire, but heat made many foods softer, safer, and easier to digest. A dead hearth could also interrupt work that depended on heat, from drying materials to treating wood, stone, resin, or animal products. One small flame supported several systems at once. Losing it could make all of them fail together. That is why maintaining fire was its own technology. Fuel had to be collected before darkness or bad weather made the job harder. Wood had to be chosen, broken, carried, and kept dry. Someone had to notice when the flame weakened. Someone had to understand when a gray coal was still alive and when it was already cold. A hearth was not a glowing object placed in the middle of camp. It was a continuing group project. Later observations of hunter-gatherers show one practical solution. Instead of creating fire at every new camp, people could carry a living ember from the old one. That does not prove every prehistoric group behaved the same way. Modern foragers are living societies, not fossils. But the practice demonstrates how portable fire can turn a difficult ignition problem into a problem of care and transport. Recent modeling has explored an even stranger possibility. Some European Neanderthal groups may have relied on wildfire for new flame while preserving and moving the fires they already had. The model does not prove that this happened everywhere. Other archaeological evidence shows that some Neanderthals could make fire. What the model shows is that wildfire dependence could have worked under certain conditions. It also shows how complex fire knowledge could weaken if it was not practiced and taught. This is the deeper story. Humanity did not master fire in one brilliant afternoon. Different groups learned different pieces of the problem across a very long time. How to recognize useful fuel, how to protect tinder, how to read a coal, how to carry heat without letting it become flame too soon, how to create a spark, and how to teach all of that to someone who would still be alive after you were gone. The real technology was not only fire, it was the chain of memory that made fire return. Of course, one extinguished hearth was not an automatic death sentence. The consequences depended on climate, season, materials, skill, neighbors, and the distance to another source of flame. Sometimes it was a delay. Sometimes it meant moving camp. And sometimes, in the wrong weather and the wrong darkness, it may have removed several protections at the worst possible moment. Tonight, if a flame disappears, you can make another one before the smoke has cleared. One movement of your thumb contains stone selection, tinder preparation, fuel knowledge, chemistry, manufacturing, and generations of accumulated practice. The click feels effortless because the difficult part happened long before you were born. So when the last ember fades, you do not see a technology vanish. You simply click again. Our ancestors could not always do that. Humanity's great achievement was not finding fire once. It was learning how to make sure the fire could return.